they've been in a full meltdown about this girl. This is going to go down in history as an asterisk next to Rachel Zegler's name.
Babe, you are not ready for this one.
A company like Disney so up against it. Why? Because it doubled down on DEI.
Just when we thought the Rachel Zegler drama had cooled down and Disney was quietly licking its wounds behind castle doors, the internet got hit with a set photo so wild, it literally flipped the entire Snow White narrative overnight.
And then what do you know? They try all this updating. They get this lousy screenwriter, in my estimation, because I saw this thing and it was awful. Like really, really, really bad.
No tweet, no trailer, no announcement. Just one blurry, zoomed-in shot of a mystery actress in full Snow White costume. Red bow, blue corset, yellow skirt, the whole fairest of them all fantasy. And in an instant, fans were like, wait, that's not Rachel.
Woke? We're talking about ultra-far leftists, people who believe that men and women are a figment of your imagination, that your money is not your own, that your family is not your own, and that your country is not your own. That's what woke means.
It took minutes, not hours, for the rumor mill to explode. TikTok sleuths were already matching faces. Fan accounts started posting side-by-sides. Reddit threads got receipts. And Twitter, a whole war zone. Because what was supposed to be a routine day on set suddenly became a full-blown scandal. Was Disney quietly replacing Rachel Zegler, their Snow White, their controversial princess, the girl they built a whole new brand around, without telling anyone?
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
And babe, this wasn't just a flashback scene or a random stand-in moment. This was a girl in Rachel's dress, on Rachel's set, under Rachel's spotlight, and not a single sign of Rachel in sight. The silence, deafening. The speculation, immediate. The energy, absolute chaos. Because if this was just a stunt double, or a reshoot fill-in, why is she the only one being filmed in full costume? Why is no one clarifying? Why is Rachel completely missing from the conversation? One photo, one leaked glimpse, and suddenly the big question is echoing louder than ever. Did Disney just replace their leading lady mid-fairy tale?
And there was no tension, there was no drama, there was like nothing in that set. All it was an empty movie.
So let's talk about the new face on set. The girl in the gown has been identified by sleuth-level fans as Emilia Falker, a rising young actress who, until now, was flying way under the radar. According to whispers from crew assistants and a few unofficial but definitely spilling sources, Emilia was cast months ago as a younger version of Snow White for flashback sequences. Cute, right? Except here's the twist. This girl, she wasn't in a flashback setting. She was front and center, in full costume, on the main set, filming what looked like pivotal scenes. And not a single camera seemed to be filming younger. Anything. No child actors, no aging effects, no fantasy filter, just Emilia as Snow White. So now, the big question hanging over everyone's head is, are we witnessing a reshoot or a quiet replacement? Because if Rachel was still the star of this show, where was she?
This is going to go down in history as an asterisk next to Rachel Zegler's name.
Let's break down the silence, babe. Because Rachel has been completely invisible. No on-set selfies, no back-in-costume stories, no reposts from the crew, nothing. And we all know Rachel doesn't usually sit out the spotlight. She lives for the message, the moment, the mic. So when she vanishes exactly when someone else is spotted in her gown, girl, that's not scheduling, that's strategy. Even more suspicious, Disney's been quietly dialing her down in promo. No new posters with her face, no solo promo clips. Recent official uploads mention Snow White the movie, not Rachel Zegler. The actress, not a good sign. And the timing, too perfect to ignore. It's giving. Let the reshoots speak for themselves. It's giving. If we don't say anything, maybe no one will notice. It's giving. Rachel might already be out. They're just soft launching the replacement.
A completely spineless, feckless prince buys his swimsuits at Target. It's helpful to be able to tuck. And Snow White is Snow Brown. Now, I don't have a problem with the fact that she's brown. I'm just saying everything about this has to be changed when it doesn't really need to be changed.
Naturally, the internet is eating itself alive over the theories. Twitter X is split into two chaotic factions. On one side, you have the body double believers. These are the folks saying Emilia is just doing pickups, Maybe Rachel wasn't available for certain days. Maybe they're using her for long shots or complex stunts. Harmless. Happens all the time. Disney wouldn't dare recast this close to release. And then there are the Rachel replacement truthers. And girl, they're not playing. They've got side-by-side screen caps from teasers and costume test leaks. They're pointing out how Disney has recast leads before, especially when test screenings flop. They're convinced the entire ending is being reworked with Amelia at the center. Their theory? Rachel's out, Amelia's in, and we'll find out officially after the damage control PR wave. One tweet with 500K plus likes said, Rachel Zegler's Snow White is the first Disney princess to disappear before her own premiere. That's historic. And the quote tweets? Merciless. Not her getting replaced by a flashback actress? Snow who? That merch flop had consequences. Babe, even her defenders are quiet. And when the stands go mute, that's a wrap.
Disney decided to hire the most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
Babe, this isn't Disney's first shady rodeo. If you think for a second that this Emilia Fokker situation is just a coincidence, you clearly haven't been paying attention to the Mouse House's playbook. Disney has a long, messy history of quietly distancing themselves from stars who start bringing too much negative attention. They don't throw public fits. They don't fire people with big announcements. They just slowly rearrange the pieces until the original star is barely part of the conversation anymore. Remember when John Lasseter disappeared from Pixar without them even mentioning his name? Remember how they handled Gina Carano on The Mandalorian? Not with huge press blasts, but quiet creative adjustments. Disney's whole brand is built on smooth PR euthanasia. Kill the controversy softly, never admit a mistake, pivot the brand, and pretend nothing happened. And now, seeing Emilia Fokker in full Snow White costume, filming actual centerpiece scenes, it's giving textbook Disney cleanup.
So Disney is another company that's been in hot water. They've been in a downward spiral.
Sources close to production, and babe, you know Hollywood insiders love to spill when the ship starts sinking, are whispering about internal restructuring for the Snow White project. Translation: focus less on the individual actress. Focus more on the story of Snow White and timeless magic. Phase Rachel out of solo promos. Start prepping the audience for a version of Snow White that isn't tied to one controversial face. And Emilia, she fits the vibe perfectly. New, fresh, drama-free. Someone they can shape into the classic, wholesome, nostalgia-bait princess that audiences trust, without all the eye-roll interviews, the viral meltdowns, and the non-stop backlash. One anonymous executive allegedly said, according to a leaked email that's making the rounds, "We need to protect the legacy brand first. Star alignment is secondary. Babe, they're choosing Snow White over Rachel, and they're doing it quietly, strategically, and ruthlessly."
The most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
Meanwhile, the audience? Babe, they're not dumb. They see everything. TikTok is flooded with theories like Disney's pulling a switch mid-air move, this is a trial run for fan reactions to a new face, Rachel's Snow White is already archived, and Amelia's is Plan B fan cams are breaking down set photos frame by frame. Reddit threads have people literally analyzing wig fibers to determine if this was planned months ago. Some even claim Amelia's been fitted for a full alternate ending reshoot, without Rachel involved at all. The craziest theory? There are. 2. Snow White edits now. A Rachel cut and an Amelia cut. And Disney will decide last minute which one hits theaters based on test screenings. Sounds crazy, right? But after the merch flop, the backlash, the PR disasters, nothing feels impossible anymore, babe.
I also like how Disney doesn't have any, new ideas. So
Right.
what have we done before that's worked? Let's do that again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Rachel's silence is deafening. There's no post saying, "So excited for my younger Snow White sister Emilia." There's no cheeky story showing her on set, getting ready for reshoots. No, can't wait for you to see our magic tweet. Nothing. Just old reposted selfies, vague empowerment quotes, and a whole lot of nothing about the movie she's supposed to be leading. Babe, if you're still the lead of a $300 million movie and your studio is filming without you in your dress, you better believe you post something. The fact that Rachel is pretending none of this is happening, it's giving "not invited to the party" energy. It's giving "I found out when you found out" vibes, and the fact that Disney isn't publicly defending her, louder than any official announcement.
And so I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible.
This is the question everyone's too scared to ask out loud. But babe, let's just go there. Could Disney actually, in this economy, after all this investment, pull a last-minute lead swap? And the answer? Maybe not officially, but unofficially? They already have. Think about it. If test audiences hate Rachel's version but love Emilia's reshoots, if merch tied to Rachel keeps flopping but Emilia starts trending on TikTok, if Disney's internal numbers show Rachel is toxic to the brand, they don't need to say anything. They just need to push the Emilia version forward quietly. Change the trailers, highlight the ensemble, make Snow White the star, not the actress playing her, and by the time the movie comes out, no one even asks what happened. Rachel will still technically star in Snow White, sure, but in the public eye, she'll already be yesterday's princess.
When people say woke,
What they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Babe, this Snow White drama isn't just embarrassing for Rachel, it's embarrassing for Disney's entire modern princess rebrand. For years now, Disney's been trying to pivot their princesses. Less traditional fairy tales, more empowerment, messaging, less romance, more social commentary. And with Rachel Zegler's Snow White, they thought they had found their perfect poster girl for that next-gen movement. She had the activism, the modern takes, the confident attitude. On paper, she was perfect. But now, the audience is rejecting the new mold. Merch isn't selling, the trailers aren't exciting fans. The behind-the-scenes leaks aren't sparking magic. They're sparking memes. Rachel's image isn't just failing herself, it's putting cracks in the entire strategy Disney built for the next 10 years. And girl, you already know, if a brand can't sell its princesses, the whole empire wobbles.
Has proven to be Disney's worst investment ever in the history of Disney investments. I mean, they've gone through various scandals with this girl.
Now, let's talk Emilia Folker, the mystery actress spotted in the Snow White dress. Is she the future? Because low-key, she might be. If the rumors are true and Disney's plan is to soft launch Emilia as the more classic Snow White, they could be using her as a reset button without admitting any mistake. Think about it. Fresh face, no baggage, no viral backlash hanging over her head, no smug interviews dragging down the fairy tale vibe. Just magic, nostalgia, sparkle, innocence. In other words, everything Disney was supposed to be selling in the first place. If audiences start responding better to Emilia's promo pics, if test screenings with her scenes perform better, if the bus internet softens toward the idea of a more traditional Snow White after the Rachel drama, Disney's pivot is basically hand-delivered. They don't need a press conference. They don't need to admit failure. They just nudge Emilia into the spotlight and watch the fandom sigh with relief.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
But babe, let's not get it twisted. This is still risky. If Disney goes full swap mode without owning what happened, they open themselves up to a whole new backlash. Fans screaming, "Coward move?" Think pieces about silencing a woman of color. Accusations of erasing the work they originally hyped as important representation. They can't win clean either way now. The second the Emilia switch leaks officially, if it ever does, Disney will have to play it extremely carefully. They'll spin it as creative adjustments. They'll push vague storytelling reasons. Maybe even throw in some test, audience feedback excuses. Because if they admit Rachel didn't connect, it won't just be Rachel's brand that takes the hit. It'll be Disney's credibility in trying to lead the culture instead of listening to it. They're stuck between two ugly options. Defend a star the audience has moved on from, or quietly erase her and pray no one notices the body double wearing her dress.
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
And babe, the wildest part? The public is already choosing. Every Emilia photo leak gets cheered. Every Rachel throwback gets roasted. Fan art of a classic Snow White version is trending again, after months of silence. People aren't fighting for Rachel's Snow White anymore. They're fighting for a Snow White that feels joyful again. Magical, soft, classic, aspirational. It's not even about Rachel's politics or interviews anymore. It's about the vibe. And the vibe she created, heavy, angry, tense. Meanwhile, Emilia Folker, she's a blank slate. A sweet unknown. She reminds people what they wanted when they heard Snow White reboot in the first place. Not a lecture about monarchy being toxic, but a magical story that made them dream. The audience has emotionally moved on. And in branding, when hearts move, dollars follow.
And Disney decided to hire the most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
If you're still doubting it, babe, here are the final pieces that are making the internet believe the Amelia era is already unofficially here. Disney quietly updated their Snow White landing page graphics to feature less Rachel close-ups and more group scenery. Merch redesign leaks showing ambiguous Snow White faces that don't fully match Rachel's features. Recent cast promo videos edited to focus on ensemble shots, downplaying any Rachel-centered moments. Crew members posting vague, love seeing the new generation of talent shining on set, captions with clapping emojis, and no Rachel tags. Rachel's own social media going dark anytime Snow White content trends. Disney isn't fighting the narrative anymore, they're surfing it. And if things keep trending this way, by the time Snow White actually hits theaters, Rachel Zegler's version of the princess might already be a ghost in her own fairy tale.
A completely spineless, feckless prince buys his swimsuits at Target.
It's helpful to be able to tuck.
And Snow White is Snow Brown. Now, I don't have a problem with the fact that she's brown. I'm just saying everything about this has to be changed when it doesn't really need to be changed.
This Snow White reboot wasn't just supposed to be another film in the Disney catalog, it was their big, flashy, headline-grabbing declaration that the next era of princesses had arrived. Rachel Zegler was meant to be the symbol of that shift, the one to prove that you can reimagine a classic fairy tale with modern commentary and still make it magical. But now, with Emilia Falker quietly slipping into the spotlight and Rachel fading further into silence, the entire strategy is starting to look like a major misfire. Disney didn't just want a new Snow White, they wanted to redefine what a princess is. And instead of applause, they're facing confusion, criticism, and retail disasters. The merch is flopping. The online reaction is divided at best and openly hostile at worst. And if this reboot tanks, it won't just be Rachel who takes the hit. It'll call into question the future of Disney's whole live-action fairy tale approach.
Whoa. We're talking about ultra-far leftists, people who believe that men and women are a figment of your imagination, that your money is not your own, that your family is not your own, and that your country is not your own. That's what woke means.
Rachel Zegler's journey from the next big thing to the face of a PR nightmare happened fast, like fairy tale curse level fast. What started as a bold casting choice has turned into a case study in how not to manage star power. The interviews were polarizing, the energy felt combative, and now, the audience that Disney hoped would celebrate this new vision has gone quiet. Or worse, they're mocking it. Rachel didn't just fumble a press tour, she fumbled the trust of the very audience that was supposed to champion her. And the worst part, she hasn't been able to pivot. Every time she tries to address the backlash, it just adds more fuel to the fire. The empowerment message she wanted to deliver is getting drowned out by her own defensiveness. And babe, the silence from Disney says it all. They're not jumping in to save her. They're stepping back, slowly, strategically, like a brand distancing itself from a product it's already decided isn't going to sell.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
Enter Emilia, fresh-faced, low-profile, and, most importantly, untouched by all the backlash. She's a clean slate. And whether or not she was originally brought in to replace Rachel, it's starting to look like Disney might just run with the idea. She's been spotted on set in full costume, shooting scenes that don't look like flashbacks, don't look like stunt work, and definitely don't look like minor reshoots. The fans have clocked it, the media is circling it, and Disney, they haven't denied a thing, which is very telling. They're letting the speculation swirl, because honestly, they might be testing the waters, seeing if audiences respond better to this newer, softer, more traditional-looking Snow White. And spoiler alert, they are. Emilia represents everything the public says they've been missing: innocence, magic, mystery. If Rachel is the version that sparked debate, Emilia is the version that's quietly making people hope again.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
If you're waiting for an official announcement, don't hold your breath. Disney never replaces stars with a splash. They do it with edits, with marketing pivots, with trailer cuts that subtly shift the focus. They let the old version fade out while a new face starts taking up more and more space. And with Snow White, that fade is already happening. Rachel's social media is radio silent. Promotional content has shifted toward ensemble shots, not solo ones. Merchandise is being redesigned to look more generic, less specifically tied to her likeness. And the fact that no one, not Rachel, not Disney, not Amelia, is saying anything, that's exactly how Disney plays it. They're not canceling Rachel. They're letting her story close quietly. And for a studio that built its brand on Happily Ever After, this quiet exit says everything.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
At the start of all this, Rachel Zegler was supposed to be the face of Disney's new era, a princess reimagined for a world that wants empowerment, edge, and energy. But instead of redefining the fairy tale, she became the controversy that overshadowed it. And now, another girl might be stepping into the same dress with none of the baggage, none of the backlash, and all the quiet, classic energy Disney needs to win the audience back. It's not official. It may never be. But if you know how Disney operates, you know this isn't a conspiracy, like, it's a strategy. The new face has been chosen, the dress has been passed, and Rachel, she might still be in the credits. But in the public's eyes, her time as Snow White might already be over. So, what do you think, babe? Was this a calculated replacement from the start? Or is Disney just cleaning up a disaster the only way they know how? Quietly. Is Emilia Fokker our new princess? Or just a placeholder while the castle gets rebuilt? Behind the scenes, drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for all the drama, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next plot twist in this fairy tale turned thriller. Because in Hollywood, you don't have to fall to be forgotten. Sometimes, they just edit you out, one scene at a time.